concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
I trusted you. You were supposed to tell me when there was something wrong with my quadcopter. Tell me if it was gonna fry my ASC or fry my motor, fry my flight controller. You were supposed to tell me. And all this time you've been lying to me. I plugged that battery in and you lit up. You told me I'd screwed up. But I went and I tore that quadcopter apart, and there was nothing wrong with it. And I plugged in the battery, and it powered up just fine. There was no smoke. So what I want to know is, why? Why did you do it? Who got to you? I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're gonna learn something today.
That's tomorrow's video. Are you ready for it? Can you handle it? Sometimes, man. Sometimes I just I started recording that video and I was like, sometimes a smoke stopper is a minute. No, I didn't like it. So have you ever had your smoke stopper light up when? And I was like, eh. And then it just clicked. I was just like, oh, I got this one. Welcome to Livestream, everybody. I know Meta Marcus says I would watch an hour of that. I should just do all of my videos like they were an episode of CSI or something. But it would get exhausting. I couldn't do it. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. It is Monday night, and it's 8 p.m., and that means it's time to stream. I say that as if it was a given that I would never miss a stream, but I did miss yesterday's stream because of a work-related trip. And speaking of which, I need to let you guys know that I will be on a work-related trip the 16th, the weekend of the 16th, all the way through the 31st. Now, content will continue to come out, but whenever I'm on the road, it's often not possible for me to live stream. So unfortunately, we're going to miss 2 weeks worth of live streams. We'll have to see. I don't want to make any promises. I mean, you never know with hotel internet, and I hate it when I start a live stream and then 20 minutes into the stream it craps out. I don't like to waste you guys' time. I'd rather just not do it. So just want to let you know, since you're all here right at the beginning of this stream, that you probably will be the first ones to notice that when they're not there. So there you go. But for now, we're here. I'm here. We're going to have a good time. I will be answering your questions, like right here. I'll be checking it out. Oh, yeah, Siati can definitely cover for me. He can have all my spots. Oh, yeah, get a 5G hotspot, says Ori Foxer. Yeah, I mean, I have a cellular hotspot on my phone. Trust me, you definitely want reliable internet connectivity to do a stream. It's possible that if I brought the stream quality down, maybe we could do it. I don't know. The other thing, I'm just going to be straight with you. The other thing is, I'm going to be working my ass off at this project, and I'm just going to be freaking exhausted. So that's the other thing. But I have great content stacked up for you guys. I didn't want to just not post videos, so I've been actually busting my ass the last 3 weeks to make extra content, so I could have content stacked up. So check it out. Or welcome to the stream. If this is your first stream, very glad to have you here. If it's not your first stream, I don't care. I'm not glad to have you here. I only want people here who it's their first stream. After that, they can just leave. No. Glad to have everybody here. It's your first time. I will be taking your questions, like this question from Mr. Syncopad. What's the deal with my ESCs? I can't seem to get info from them. It does connect, when I read setup, it shows nothing. Help, Mr. Syncopad asks, and I will answer that question. Most likely cause for that is that you have BLHeli 32 ESCs and you're using BLHeli S configurator, or vice versa. So there's BLHeli S and BLHeli 32 ESCs. There's BLHeli Suite and BLHeli Suite 32, and you can't cross them. There you go. That's the number one thing about that would cause that problem. See, there you go. Just answer your questions. So many questions are going to go by. So many questions are going to go by without me being able to answer them. But if you want to make sure that I get your question, hit the $ right down here, leave a super chat, and it will get pulled there. You still could be the first one to leave a super chat on the stream. No super chats have come in. And I will make sure to read those super chats. I actually haven't missed a super chat in a while. Why don't they properly detect the other ones, Kyle K asks. I don't know. They just don't. It's not compatible. Oh, there we go. Big oily guy. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Just got my Rotor Risco. It has Tracer. Do I need the TBS Mama to failsafe? Big oily guy. Everybody knows TBS never failsafes. So if you want failsafe, TBS is not for you, right? Isn't that how it works? That's what I was told in my weekly meetings about how to talk about TBS. And over here on the right side of the screen, right over here, these people are extra special because they're my patrons. In the video description, there's a link to my Patreon page where you can support me for as little as $2 a month. It's just like a subscription to me. And you can feel great about helping me pay my bills. And one of the benefits of Patreon is you get to hang out with these beautiful people over here. So I think most people consider that to be a benefit. Ori Foxer wants to know, I have a Hobby Wing ESC that comes with capacitor and leads pre-soldered. I cannot get the factory solder to melt with my TS100. I got it halfway melted, but the wire doesn't move. Okay, so let's talk about that. The reason that factory solder is so hard to melt is that it's lead-free. in industrial manufacturing, whatever you want to call it, they all want to be RoHS compliant. RoHS, I think it's a European standard, although I'm not sure about that. But basically it relates to industrial waste, e-waste, and specifically to be RoHS certified, you need lead-free solder. That's my understanding. If I've got that wrong, I'm sure the chat will let me know. But the gist of it is that factory solder is almost always, if not always, lead-free, and that means it is harder to get it to melt. Adding fresh solder to it can help because you may have leaded solder. If you have unleaded solder, it's not going to help as much to add fresh solder to it. The other thing that adding fresh solder will do is it adds flux. Rosin core solder will have flux in the middle, and adding a little bit of it to the joint will get the flux on it, and the flux will help it to flow. What I would suggest is get a flux pen. Okay, not just you can get by with rosin core solder alone, but a flux pen, and you could just glob a good amount of flux on there. You want to make sure it's no clean flux, and make sure it's soldering flux, not like plumbing flux from the hardware store. I know that sounds obvious to a lot of people, but it is a mistake people make. No clean, solder flux, and that'll help. The other thing is you're using the TS100, and so I got to ask Orifoxer, and I'll go ahead and type this in the chat. Orifoxer, what are you using to power the TS100? Because if you're powering the TS100 off like a 4S LiPo, it actually struggles a little bit. But if you're powering it off a 6S, it rocks. I mean, it's a good soldering iron, but I've noticed that with big joints, a 4S doesn't get the job done as quickly as a 6S. The other thing is the tip that you're using. If you're using the standard conical tip, the conical tip that it comes with, then that doesn't have a lot of thermal mass. Using a larger tip can help. He says he's powering it off the wall. What power adapter? The flat chisel tip is a good choice. How many watts, what volts? But I think if you get a flux pen, get some flux on that joint, it'll melt pretty quickly. The thing is, you just have to keep applying heat until it melts, or until you destroy it. If you apply heat long enough, eventually you will destroy it. Eddie Nunez, you think I'm out of focus? Oh, I don't think so, but you never know. Let's see what we can do here. That looks pretty close right there. We're going to call that good. Is that better, Eddie? Is that better? Okay. Must have bumped it. So let's see. Here's the power supply that Orifoxer is using. I want to know what voltage. It is a power port DC 525. Yeah. What power adapter does it come with? Or does it say? Surely it must say power supply 19 volts 2.1 amps. Let's do the math there on how many watts that is. 19 times 2.5 is that's reasonable. That's reasonable. That should be able to do the job. So I think just get some flux and give it time to melt. It sometimes may take longer to melt. Putting the custom firmware on the TS100 lets it go up to 450 Celsius, also helpful. But not all TS100s can do it. Some of them don't have enough flash space, and when you try and do it, it doesn't work. Stefano Rinaldi says that my house in Liftoff seems so much smaller than my videos. It is surprisingly accurate. That's just the size of it in real life. So, yeah, it feels smaller. Hammer asks, should I use FETTech 1-wire or D-Shot 2400 on my FETTech build? Hammer, when I did my FETTech build, and granted this was some time ago, so it may have changed. When I did my FETTech build, FETTech advised me to use D-Shot 2400 because the 1-wire had some issues that they were still working on. I don't know what the nature of the issues was. and whether they've been resolved, but I ended up using D-Shot 2400. The thing is, the plug that goes between them has all the wires in it for D-Shot, so it's not like you really benefit by doing one wire. And if there's a potential for some kind of stability issue, then I would use 2400. Glad to see you here, Ciati. I'm going to be seeing Ciati this coming weekend. Next weekend. What is it, Monday? Next weekend. This coming weekend. Yeah, same thing. He is going to be at the showing of the Flow State documentary, the Flow State FPV documentary. And I'm looking forward to seeing him and getting to hang with him and everybody else who's coming. All of the seats I don't think we have room for more seats. In fact, we got more applications than we had seats in the theater. And I approved a batch of people, and I said, look, if you are not coming, then please RSVP no. And not enough people did that. So I was like, oh crap, we're in trouble. We've oversold the place. So I had to go back and say, no, seriously, if you're coming, say yes. If you're not coming, say no. May have to start cutting people, and then people RSVP'd. It looks like we're going to be okay, but I am not in a position to open up any more seats, unfortunately. But I hope that there will be additional chances in the future for you to see the film. Obviously, the goal is to get as many people seeing it as possible. Check this out. What do you think about that for a movie poster? We've been working on the movie poster. We've been working on it. This is not final, but then there's another version that's a potential, which has a slightly different composition. Yeah. See, and unfortunately, this was not finished in time to print the poster and have it up at the theater, unfortunately. Double A says that's way better. Better than the previous drafts, yes. I agree. Yeah, Steele volunteered to pose for the poster. Big thanks to him. And he actually flew his quadcopter with LEDs on it to create these light trails. These are actual light trails of his quadcopter. So yeah, very exciting. Can't decide which one of these I like best. I want to show this one as well. Well, I don't know if I should show it. So this was done by Ghost Branch FPV. His actual name is Andre Hunsler. And I hesitate to show it because this was very much a proof of concept. He said when he delivered it, look, this isn't finished. Just tell me your thoughts. So any criticism you might have of it, I ask you to chalk it up to it was just a preliminary and he would have done it better. But actually, I thought he did a really good job with it too. So, yeah. Looking forward to seeing 140-ish of you down there in Atlanta. What do you think? If you were scrolling, not this one. That's not going to be the one. If you were scrolling on Netflix and you saw this, would you click it? I don't know. What can we do to make it like more appealing? I don't know. I'll have to see. Big Oily Guy says that's the dated Apex frame. That is Steele's literal quad. That's his literal quad. So, yeah. I also thought the drone should be bigger. That was the main difference between this composition and this composition. I thought the drone should be bigger. Like, maybe it could even get bigger than this. More LEDs, yeah. Yeah, I do like that in Ghost Branch's example, the quad is very, very clear. But it doesn't interact with the light trails very well. Like, that's the kind of thing that Ghost Branch would have fixed if he was to spend more time on it. Anyway, we'll keep working on it. Yeah, I was trying to think of what we could do to catch people's eye and get them to click. Like drones are appealing. So, yeah. There was somebody who asked about my shirt. This is the Moon Goat shirt. The Moon Goat frame from Umagod. It's Cricket's frame of choice. Moon Goat this is his logo. This is his shirt that he gave me. So I don't know what else this goat might represent, but it's at least a moon goat. Let me get some more of these super chats out of the way. ES, thanks for $10. No question. Thanks for the invite this weekend. Stevens Box, thank you for a $5 super chat. Will Betaflight 4.3 configure ESCs or some part of it? I hate the confusion with BL Heli. Stevens Box, there has been discussion in the past about integrating BL Heli into Betaflight, and so you could manage your ESCs and your flight controller with a single app. The reason that they have resisted doing that, my recollection is that it creates a versioning nightmare. That every time BL Heli updates, there has to be a new Betaflight configurator version. Every time Betaflight updates, that doesn't happen that often though. So by having two programs in one interface, now you have version problems and it's just a nightmare. And they felt like it was better to keep them separate. So no, there will be separate. Cali FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. I have the T-Motor 55 amp Pro ESC with no 9-volt regulator using the Rush Tank Pro Ultimate VTX. Could it run 9 volts? I don't understand your question, Cali FPV. I'm very sorry. The ESC does not have a 9-volt regulator. Okay. The Rush Tank Pro Ultimate, doesn't it run off a VBAT? Why do you need a regulator to run that VTX? That's why I'm confused. Waldo, thank you for a $2 super chat. Waldo wants to know when I'm going to review the Rotor Risco bind and fly. Near as I can tell, and I'm sure that the chat will try to convince me I'm wrong about this, but near as I can tell, the Rotor Risco is a made-up product that people are just trolling and joking about. So I can't review a product that doesn't exist, but good. Thank you for the $2. Anybody who wants to troll me about the Rotor Risco, feel free to super chat me. I do appreciate the super chats. Jim Sanders with a big $30 donation. That's a very, very generous donation, Jim. Thank you so much. FPV Mom, because of you, in the last month, I've built your freestyle, learned OpenTX and Express LRS, and joined the International Game of Whoop. Wow, out of the gate. Joining the International Game of Whoop. Mostly just saying thanks. Quick question. What do you think is the best 1 to 2S flight controller out there? Any with black box? It's got to be the FPV cycle, right? So, in general, FPV cycle, everything they make is good. But also, it's always out of stock. Except when it's in stock, and then you got to get it. Check this out. This is the FPV 1S AIO. It is 1S only, not for 2S, so it's 1S only. And frankly, I don't have personal experience with it, but based on how freaking hard I know that Bob Ruge works to get... the reason this has been out of stock for so long is that he has been kicking the manufacturer's butt about the failure rate. See, look right here. We've been working on this for 3 years. Right? So, yeah, this is the one. Oh, it's sold out. Yeah. Torvik, thank you for a $5 super chat. Any seats left for Flow State? I entered and never heard anything. Torvik, so the people who entered, we went down so for the first thing I did is I sorted the list randomly so that everybody would have a fair chance to enter, to attend. And then I invited people in batches, and if you didn't hear anything, then it means that there just weren't too many entries and you didn't make the cut. I didn't email everyone who didn't get selected because I don't know. I thought, well, because I'll tell you the reason. Because like you start out and let's say there's 300 people. I'm just making these numbers up. But let's say that there's 140 seats and 300 people enter. Well, so the first 80 people you say, hey, you can come. And 20 of them RSVP yes, and 30 of them RSVP no, And so you just keep inviting more people, but you never want to go, no, you can't come, because you never know. You could get more no RSVPs. But at this point, I don't think any more people are going to be invited. But I haven't gone back to everyone left and said, you're sorry, you can't do it. So unfortunately, if you haven't heard anything, unfortunately, there probably isn't a seat for you. I'm sorry to say that. Word FPV, thanks for a $2 super chat. Your email sports top notch. F7 on 6S. Thanks. Thank you. Ho Operator, thanks for a $5 super chat. What's with the goat of Mendez on your shirt? Oh, there we go. I answered that one. What is the goat of Mendez? Is this an actual thing? Did they borrow this? No, I think this is original art. I see. I mean, it's a goat. The goat of Mendez appears just to be a goat in a pentagram. This is the... Let's see if I can even find the t-shirt. This is the... Apparently he's not the only one to come up with the idea of a moon goat. Yeah, so this is the moon goat frame. I don't know where the t-shirt came from. I mean, I got the t-shirt from Corey. I don't know where he gets them or where you could buy them. And Zorro did the design. I see. So there you go. That's the answer. Have I ever solved a Rubik's Cube? Asks Big Jai. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Yes, I have. Once upon a time, I was not like into Rubik's Cube solving. I was never, I mean, I'm not even sure I got like a sub 1 minute solve. I can't remember what my time was. But I was able to solve the cube from memory at one point. But then, I just didn't practice it. Have I ever hurt myself accidentally with a drone? Yeah, I mean, once a long, long time ago, I picked up a drone and it was not unplugged and I flipped the arm switch and I hit my thumb with it. Fortunately, it hit with the underside of the prop and so it didn't kind of cut in. It just kind of went, but it didn't feel good. Didn't feel good. Gregory Hurst, thank you for a $10 super chat. Let's see. Just a $10 super chat. T-Bird FPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. Make Steel's ego bigger. Wait, that's not possible. Big Oily Guy, thank you for another $2. Less Mr. Steel, more Rotor Risco. It is real. Thank you for the super chat. Am I going to try out Edge TX? Asks Smokey Bear 262. I am going to make content about Edge TX. I started doing my research in preparation for making a video about it about 2 weeks ago. And I realized they're real close to to version 1.0. And I'd rather wait till they do version 1.0 and get, rather than have a bunch of people jump in on a release candidate that might have a bug and have a bad experience. So Edge TX, I am going to do a video about as soon as 1.0 comes out, which could be any moment. I'm really curious what you guys think about these. I wish I could put them side by side, but I don't know that I can. Hang on. I'm going to try something here. Open a new window. Oh, I could put them on an Imager album. Okay, so hang on. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Hang on. Download. I need to download this one. Download. And I need to download this one. And where's the last one? Oh, yeah, here we go. Download this one. And download this one. Now we go to Imager. And I'm going to do a poll for you guys. How do I... Oh, new post. There we go. Let's see here. So here is Ghost Branches. Yeah, interesting. There's this composition. Oh, my file is too large. Damn it. Can I just resize it? Yeah, it's huge. Okay, hang on. Save. Save. Replace. Okay. Hello. Hello. Can we drop this here? Okay, great. And let's see, where's the third one? Where's the third one? I know there's a third one. Huh. Oh yeah, it's this. It's that one. And then this one. Do we download it? There it is. Resize. 15%. Oh, no. That's not the full size. Okay. Oh, it's a thrilling live stream, isn't it? Huh. But, sorry. Is it this one? No. This is the one that I want. Yes. Download it. Please. What is your problem? I don't understand why it's not downloading. Really? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why will you not download? What's your frickin' problem? Okay, this is stupid. Alright, well, screw you, Google. Why? This is ridiculous. It won't frickin' download. What am I going to do? Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to screen grab it. Boom. Stupid. And paste. Okay, great. So now I need to name them. Can I name them? 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. And I need to name it. Okay. Okay, so here we're going to do a poll. One, two. Oh my God, this has been like 20 minutes setting this up. There we go. We got a poll now. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let's see what feedback. You want viewers who don't know who Steel is. Make him much smaller and make the drone bigger. So the point of putting Steel on here is as a thank you to Steel and a nod to the FPV community. But obviously, we hope that a large part of the audience will not be FPV pilots, will be outside of FPV. But the human figure is compelling. Have you ever seen a movie poster that doesn't have a human face on it, right? A movie poster always has a human face, so no, Steel should not be smaller. A human face is very compelling. It's eye-grabbing. Guarantee it. Let's see. The link isn't clickable. Unreal. Surely, even if the link isn't clickable, you can figure out how to click the link. I'll show you again, though. So, here's 1. Here's 2. And here's 3. Slightly different composition between 2 and 3. No, trust me. Trust me. As someone who has put a lot of thought into how to make compelling YouTube thumbnails, it's the same. You have to have a human face. You must have a human face. It's extremely compelling. Let me paste this image link here in the chat for those who are having trouble finding it. Anthony King wants to know if I have any contacts at Fat Shark Support. Just email support@fatshark.com. That's the answer. CGKFPV says, I do this for a living. You make movie posters? I would love to talk to you about your thoughts. Let's see here. Drone is dark on a dark background. Cannot see the drone. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sway the results, but my biggest criticism of this one is that the whole thing is very dark. And you can't really, that's not anything. So, yeah. Here's the link. You guys can click the link there. People are asking about the poll results. There we go. I'm gonna not skew the results by showing the results. Keep voting. Keep voting. MPFPV wants to know: do you think you could fit a 16 by 16 stack in the Tiny Trainer with a Nano VTX in the back? The Tiny Trainer is made for a toothpick flight controller. There are people who have crammed like a Naked Vista in it. It can use a 20 millimeter flight controller, but they were using larger standoffs. Ciati, thank you for a $5 super chat. Light trails need to be doubled or tripled to stand out when on the tiny Netflix menu. To hell with accuracy. People are pointing out that Steele's crotch is glowing because of the Crossfire module. Good point. Borked, thank you for a $5 super chat. Wish number 3 had green glow on the head, not the crotch. MPFPV says that the 533 says the Tiny Trainer supports a 16 by 16. I guess it does. A 16 by 16 stack is going to be smaller than a toothpick stack, so I think you would have more room for your VTX in that case. Big Jai, thank you for a $2 super chat. What's the best Fat Shark goggle module? This Rapid Fire is still number 1. In my opinion, Rapid Fire and Fusion are tied for number 1, and Fusion gets the nod because it's a little bit less expensive. That's what I would say. Rapid Fire is very good, and if you're using Immersion RC Ghost, Rapid Fire has some integration with Ghost. If you're using Orca goggles, Rapid Fire has some integration with the Orca goggles that would make it compelling. But for general people and people using Crossfire, then I would go with Fusion. Phantom FPV, good to see you in the chat. Maybe I'll even see you this weekend. You never know. Let's see here. One IFPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. Bumble Bear, this is a tough one to answer. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give you a satisfactory answer. I tried getting the quad ready to fly and tune at about 60 to 70% throttle. The quad spazzes into a roll and crashes. It's running Ethics Flat Rats, Mamba F403 Mini Mark II. What should I do? If it spazzes and rolls, then it's usually a bad ESC or a bad motor. It could be electrical noise or vibration from the gyro. If the motors are super hot, then they could randomly desync from excess noise. Yeah. That's my take on it. It may be a bad ESC or a bad motor. Or if the motors are cool and it falls then it's a bad ESC, bad motor, bad solder joint, screw touching the windings, motor screw touching the windings. If all the motors are super hot and it flies like this, then you have a gyro problem, and that's the explanation. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Ghost Branch can be gratified to know that he won by a fair margin. Number one won by a fair margin. So what did you guys who voted for number one, what did you like about it? Jose Amacias asks, any tips on soldering nano boards? I'm going crazy here trying to get the wires in these tiny solder spots. Get a thin solder tip and use flux. That's going to help. Put some flux on the bare pads before you tin them. No glowing crotch. Yeah, I do think the color on this one is way better. It makes him stand out, whereas on the others it feels like he kind of bleeds into the background. I think this is actually a shot in different lighting, and this is actually shot at night. I thought the script typeface was not appropriate for this topic. I feel like this typeface, it does not say, this is a documentary about drones. That's what I think. The pink props are way out of the color palette, says Toady RZ. That's Ghost Branch's photograph of his own Apex build, for what it's worth. PS Ariel wants to know in the Discord, for the Sharkbite system, on the new VTX, do we need to set up smart audio? No. Smart audio is only for analog VTX. Should have been a Runcam Orange on his drone. I think that Steele wouldn't appreciate that. Richard says the blending of the quad doesn't look right. Let me remind you, this was a draft, a concept draft from Ghost Branch. And as I said previously, I think it has a lot going for it, and I wanted to show it. But like the fact that the light trail doesn't blend in here, that's because it was a concept draft. So please don't judge that at all. Ghost Branch is very, very good at Photoshop, and he would not want this to reflect his finished work. So please don't let that happen, or I'll be sad that I showed it. Is there any way to trigger an aux channel through the screen or menus of a TX16S, maybe by using a Lua script? Nick Schwartz, a Lua script can do almost anything. Yes. Now, is there a pre-existing Lua script that will do that? I don't know. You want to learn how to code a Lua script? Be my guest. I don't think that there's such a thing like already made. Why not trigger the aux channel by flipping a switch? The gosh darn radio has more switches than you ever would need to use. So, yeah. Jackalope FPV says, why not use NERC on the poster instead? Surely he is more recognizable than Steel, considering DRL. Actually, NERC, we approached NERC and asked him to do it, and unfortunately his schedule did not allow him to do it. And at a certain point, yeah, it didn't work out. So the only reason we approached NERC was that I had recently seen some light trail painting photos of NERC, and I was like, oh, that would be great. What a great idea. And since he was the one who triggered the idea, I thought, well, let's ask him to do it. Psych Limbo says the quad doesn't look like it's actually flying in any of them. Ironically, the quad is literally actually flying in this one. That is a nighttime shot of an actual quad with lights on it flying. So there you go. Mike Bergman says, so Steel was your second pick. No, stop trying to make trouble. Like I said, I had just seen a photo of Nurk doing light painting, and I was like, oh, that would be a great on the movie poster. So, of course, he was, since it was him who inspired it, he was the first one I hit up. But he is super busy. JT Knives wants to know, is it cheating to map angle mode to the right momentary switch? No, just do whatever you got to do, man. Richard says, would have been great if you had worked out a big group photo. The original version of the poster did have a group photo on it, but we thought that this type of composition was better. Because a group photo can be overwhelming. It's just a bunch of people all clustered together. So to the viewer, it doesn't tell a story about what's in the film. Whereas there's this guy and it's nighttime and he's flying a drone and he's got these goggles on his face. This starts to sort of tell a story. A group shot full of FPV luminaries would impress the FPV community, but it wouldn't mean jack to the people outside the FPV community because they don't know who any of us are. And the goal is ultimately to get people outside the FPV community interested. So, Brian Levine, thank you for a $20 super chat. Brian has been trying to reach me to talk about my vehicle's extended warranty. Hey, for $20, you can talk to me about my extended warranty for a little while. Yeah, a group photo would also be busy in a small thumbnail format. No one knows who Steele is, says Johnny Blaze. Well, I mean, FPV community knows who he is, but that's why the poster is designed to work. The goal is that the poster will work on two levels. FPV pilots will see Mr. Steele on the poster and go, oh, damn, what's going on here? And regular people will just see a dude flying a drone. But it'll be a grab either way. I mean, honestly, this poster is designed to play on stereotypes about drone pilots, right? And hopefully entice people to click. MPFPV says, did anyone watch the latest Justin Bieber music video? I had 2 heart attacks. The first was when I saw the awesome FPV shots, and the second was when I realized Alex Vanover was the drone op. I'm so happy that FPV is reaching mainstream media now. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, that's really impressive. Yeah, Alex Vanover worked on a Justin Bieber video. I think Vanover's younger than Bieber, which can't be true because Bieber's like 12, right? No, I'm just old. Joseph Tahari says, I loved the documentary. Christian did an amazing job with that. Christian Capper is an amazing editor, but he did not edit this film. This film was edited by James Christensen, the other guy who is working on the film with me. "2017 Toyota Camry says, for this new FAA trust test, what would happen if I didn't take it? If you were approached by a law enforcement officer and they asked for your trust certificate and you didn't have it, then you could theoretically be penalized in some way, probably with a fine. Chances of that happening obviously are very, very low, but not zero. Nebulous James says, I have a Mambo F7 flight controller. I put a 6-cell battery on it once, and ever since there's been horizontal fuzzy snow lines in the video feed. I replaced cameras and VTXs. Sounds like you have a problem with your voltage regulator. Can you power your camera and VTX from VBAT and see if the problem is still there? Do you see the horizontal lines even before you arm? If so, then that also confirms that you've got a voltage regulator problem. Why does my Tyrannus say testing warning when I turn it on? Asks Alexander Seidler. Alexander, you must have flashed a pre-release or a nightly build of OpenTX, such as the Express LRS build or the Ghost build or the Crossfire Shot build, and all of the pre-release ones give that warning when you power them up. You see them after you arm, then it's not a regulator issue, it's a grounding issue, most likely. But I don't know. I'm guessing maybe it was a coincidence that it started happening after you plugged 6S in. Jeremy Sarge asks, do you need the trust test if you have a 107? Sort of, Jeremy. 107 holders can still fly recreational flights. In the same way that if I'm a truck driver and I have a commercial driver's license, I can still drive my personal car. And when I'm driving my personal car, I'm like not using my CDL. A different set of rules apply when I'm driving a commercial vehicle versus when I'm driving a personal vehicle. So if I have a 107, I could choose to make a recreational flight. Why would I ever do that? Well, it turns out that recreational flights in a lot of ways have less restrictions than commercial flights. For example, until recently, you needed a night waiver to fly at night past civil twilight. They recently changed that rule so that you could get a sort of a permanent ability to fly at night. But until recently, recreational flights could fly after dark, and 107s couldn't unless you got a night waiver. So you might say, well, look, it's I'm going to fly my tiny whoop or something. It's got LEDs on it. Yeah, I can see it for three statute miles. I don't know. And then you could choose to fly recreationally. So as a 107, just take the test. It takes 15 minutes at most. And now you got you've crossed that off your list. Lord Henrik says there are Mr. Beast scam ads on my channel. I almost got fished. Lord Henrik's, I have zero control over what ads YouTube shows you. Report the ad, right? YouTube has a thing where you can report the ad as a scam. I have no control over what's shown on what ads are shown on my channel by YouTube. Sorry, man. Hey, Gem Fan Hobby. Thank you for being here, first of all. Gem Fan Hobby says, I will be flying over 250 props as a blind F4 durability test and crashing all of them. Fantastic. Yet last week we talked about how GemFan was doing a recall in the F3 and F4 props because they had durability issues. GemFan, I think you should also look into whether the I Love You prop and the other similar props have similar issues. I don't know, but I did have people who asked, hey, they're recalling the F3 and the F4. Are they also recalling the I Love You? Of course, anytime you have a recall, I mean, there was, somebody said, hey, are they recalling the 51433? Like, you're always going to have somebody who's just trying to jump on the bandwagon. So I don't know if there's a durability issue with the I Love You props, but somebody asked. So should definitely wanted to pass that on. And of course, a live stream with 500 people watching is the best place to do that. Miguel T, thank you for a $10 super chat. Is there an ESC setting that improves fluidity and momentum? On 1S, some feel it stops as soon as I lift off the throttle. Others seem to carry more momentum. No. So motor braking, there's no such thing as like motor braking strength, where you can turn motor braking up or down. It's either on or off. And in the case of BL Heli, it's almost always on. You could turn off motor braking, but the quad is going to handle much worse Most quads will handle much worse. Some very small quads, like 65 millimeter whoops, there are some arguments that you want breaking off. But for larger quads, say 2 inches and up, I would say 3 inches and up for sure, you want breaking on. If I don't know why you would want your motors to be less responsive, right? If your motors spin down too fast, lower the throttle slower. I don't know why you would ever want your motors to be less responsive. I'll say this. Don't adjust your ESC to try to make your motors less responsive. It'll make your quad fly worse. So, 661FPV says, so why should anyone ever get a Part 107? Because you need a 107 to do commercial flying. Recreational, if you fly for money, if you fly in furtherance of a business, you need a 107. And lots of people want to do that. Strawman Fallacy, thank you for a $2 super chat. Have you ever been penalized with a drone? I don't know what that question means. I think there's a subtext there. Perhaps focused on the word penal. I don't know. I've never been penalized with a drone. I've never gotten an FAA fine, if that's what you mean. Knock on wood. Nebulous James, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'll check the ground, and if that doesn't fix it, do a 1v1 with you. Okay, not a problem. Who enforces 107 and what is the actual penalty? Asks 661FPV. The FAA. The FAA has inspectors and lawyers who work for them. For example, recently, a guy in Philadelphia known as Mikey, Philly Mikey, also Philly Drone Life is his YouTube channel. He was fined a total of $182,000 for 123 fines posted to his YouTube channel. Flying over people, flying over streets, flying near trains, flying in the city, etc. For the record, before you freak out, I mean, you might still freak out. For the record, the FAA what they usually do is they'll contact you and they'll say, hey, what you were doing there, did you know it wasn't legal? Yeah, listen, don't do that again, okay? All right, cool, thank you. There are YouTube videos out there of people like photography YouTubers, the name's not going to come to me, where the FAA was like, hey, this guy's flying, he's got a YouTube channel, he needs a 107, but he doesn't have a 107. And they didn't just go, we are fining you. They just said, hey, maybe you should know you need a 107, and maybe you'd like to make a video telling other people that you need a 107 for this. And that was the end of it. My understanding, and you should take this with a grain of salt because I'm certainly not knowledgeable about the topic, but my understanding is that the FAA tried to contact Mikey many times, and basically he kept doing it. And eventually they were like, all right, F this guy. 661FPV, I know of 2 people who have been fined by the FAA for flying drones. One is Philly Drone Life, and the other is Paul Nurkala. Paul Nurkala's Flight of the Year, where he flew near a train. Interestingly, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm not sure how much of this Paul has talked about publicly and how much he hasn't, so I'm going to just stop because I don't want to reveal stuff that he's selected not to reveal, so I'll just shut up. But we know that Paul got fined for that flight. So, yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing about this Philly Mikey thing. When they fined him only for his live streams. He had uploaded videos doing the exact same thing, and they were not mentioned in the complaint. And I heard people speculate, and we don't know if this is true, but it's an interesting speculation, that the reason they focused on the live streams is that with a live stream, you have a reasonable belief of the exact date and time and location when the thing happened. Whereas with an uploaded video, especially if you don't start the video by going, well, it's 4th of July, 2021, and I'm about to fly this drone, right? If you just upload a flight video, they don't know when it happened. And so in theory, it could be outside the statute of limitations and they can't prove it. So it's interesting to see what kind of things they will go after you for and what kind of things they won't. Because the thing is, they don't have a lot of resources for enforcement. And that is why the trust test came along, in my opinion. Because the idea behind the trust test is that any cop, any police officer can come up to you and say, can I see your trust certificate? You're flying a drone. And if you don't have it, now you are breaking the law in some way that the cop can then hassle you over. The FAA knows they don't have enough. So to be fair, I sincerely think the goal of the trust test is to educate people, just to make sure that you have seen these words in front of your eyes and know that, like, you're not supposed to fly above 400 feet. And some of that is so that when you break the rules, you can't say, I didn't know. But some of it is just that they want to sincerely educate people, right? But then there's this certificate that you need to have. And it's pretty clear to me that the point of that is that the FAA doesn't have the resources to enforce all these rules and go after everybody, and they're hoping to outsource that to local law enforcement. Regulation, not law, says Big Data Pimp. That's true, but I wonder to what degree that distinction matters. Because the FAA is given the authority and the mandate to create the regulations by law. So Congress passes the FAA Reauthorization Act of whatever year, and that says that the FAA must do these things and may do these things. So then the FAA makes the regulations. If you break the regulation, I mean, I don't know if it's a criminal thing, but I mean, I feel comfortable saying you've broken the law. I don't know. Some people, a lawyer would probably feel like the distinction was more relevant. 661FPV, you are correct that only the FAA can enforce, only the FAA can like fine you for breaking these rules. But I believe that's correct. But local law enforcement can help with evidence gathering and turn the case over to them. So don't think that if a cop comes up to you and says, hey, you're flying your drone illegally, you can't go, oh, yeah, well, you're not the FAA, so I guess there's nothing you can do. That's not going to go over well. So. Gregory Hurst wants to know, does anybody really know what the trust test is, and who would fine me for violating this made-up law? Gregory, I'm about to blow your mind, man. Let me get in close here. All laws are made up. It's all in your head, man. One day somebody said, hey, we're going to be a government. And somebody else said, no, screw you. You're not my government. And then they had a big fight with guns and they killed each other and one of them won. And they said, hey, we're your government now. And then they made up laws. They literally just sat around a table and smoked pipes and drank probably cider, because the founding fathers drank a lot of cider. And they just made up the laws, man. They're all made up. All the laws are made up. You're like, oh, this trust test is just a made up. It's all made up. It's all made up. So. If Saif-Ullah Khalid is a graphic designer who wants to contribute to the movie poster, I mean, I'm always interested in input and ways to make it better. I feel like it could be better than it is. I feel like it's gotten a lot better since the very first ones. I feel like it could be better. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. You better not take the FAA trust test so you can play stupid. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. Okay, first of all, whether you take the test or not, you could still lie and play stupid if that's what you want to do. So take the test, don't take the test. It doesn't really change that. But has this ever worked? I don't know, probably has worked. Sir, do you know how fast you were going? No, sir. Officer, how fast was I going? Sir, I clocked you at 97 in a 55. Oh, really? Oh, you know what? I didn't know the speed limit was 55. Sorry. When does it ever work to say I didn't know? Sir, you can't fly your drone into protected airspace around the airport. Oh, really? Oh, you know what? I didn't even know that airport was there. Oh, you. Okay. Well, you be more careful next time. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. I mean, maybe like your local cop will just shoo you off, but you not taking the test so you can pretend you didn't know. That's just doesn't really, because nobody, there's no record that you took the test. The only record that you took the test is the certificate that you print and keep on your body. There's no central database. It doesn't exist. No one knows. So, Robert Knox, thank you for a $5 super chat. I just attempted my first maiden of my first build. As it armed, throttle at 0, it took off. The throttle correctly responds in beta flight. Any suggestions? Robert Knox, the number one reason for the quad to take off at sort of 0 throttle, and it went straight up in the air, I'm guessing, because if it had flipped over, you would have said. The number one reason is that you have the motors are reversed option enabled. Oh, you know what? Ah, no, I dropped it. Oh, come back. Come back. Come back, you. Okay. So, boom. Connect. Connecting. Oh, any day now. Come on. So here, any day now. Let's do this. Here in the configuration tab, we have this option, motor direction is reversed. Everybody thinks that reverses your motors. It doesn't. It tells Betaflight that you have reversed the motors. So if you flip this option and the quad expects the motors to be spinning out, but actually they're spinning in, the quad will fly to the moon the minute you arm it. So your motor direction must match what this diagram shows. This does not cause your motor direction to change. So the workaround is to probably just turn that option off and see if it happens again. 661 FPV says quads really shouldn't just take off and fly away these days. Yeah, so like if the quad flips over, then runaway prevention will detect it and disarm it. But in that case, what happens is that the quad is shuddering on the yaw axis, and it never gets the pit error high enough to trigger the runaway detection. So the thing is, Riet9 says knowing has the effect of implying deliberate intent. But listen, cops, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know. How many times a day do you think a cop hears that? Do you think that they're either gonna believe you and show you, be nice and let you off, or maybe they're not, but whether you actually took the test has no effect on that. Right? Robert Knox, make sure your motors are spinning the same direction that is shown in that diagram. 707 FPV says, I just bought your F7 flight controller, and after plugging in USB, I got no LEDs. 707, I would certainly try the USB cable with some other flight controller. Maybe you have a bad USB cable. The chances of you getting just a plain DOA one, it's not zero, but I would rule out other possibilities. I mean, you could even plug it into a phone charger just to give it 5 volts and it should power up. But if it's DOA, just go back and they'll send you another one. And apologies for the inconvenience. How much does it cost to obtain a 107, Arthur Mann? I can't remember. I think the test was around $100. I think the test was around $100, $120, something. I can't remember. It's been a little while. Ho Operator, thank you for a $5 super chat. That's a spicy comment. I'm going to decline to read it. But other kudos on your determination. Iris Toft, thank you for 808. Oh, that's a number. 808, baby. Best synthesizer. Trust helps eliminate idiot pilots. It's someone easy, just do it. Damn it. Great content today. Thank you, Iris Toft. Okay. Yeah. Good old Dave Chappelle with the I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Love that joke. I love that joke so much. It's such a great joke. So Mr. Blob says, I live right on the edge of an exclusion of a Royal Air Force base. I fly inside of it, but police ever asked me, I would be able to say I didn't know I was inside of it since it's very much on the edge. Why not just don't fly inside the Royal Air Force exclusion zone? Like, I don't want to sound like a freaking, uptight Karen or a party pooper. But, like, why not just stay out of the... Like, is it worth it? Like, I'm not trying to be like, it's not like, what's the payoff versus the risk, right? Oh, you know what? I didn't know. Well, maybe you catch them on a good day and they're like, okay, don't do it again, Sonny. And maybe you catch them on a bad day and they're like, well, go to jail and we're going to find the shit out of you. Like, why is that a chance that you feel like taking when you could simply elect to not fly in the excluded area? Like, I just don't like when you do something like that, you're inviting them to come and hopefully take mercy on you. And that's just not a position I feel like putting myself in. I mean, if it I'm not like a total, you must only fly at approved AMA fields with a designated spotter who maintains visual line of sight at all times, etc. I'm not like I've done building dives. I've flown, at a parking deck late at night when no one was there. Like, I've done things that some people would consider to be, I'm cool. Hello, fellow kids. I'm just saying, it's a freaking Royal Air Force base. That's like, I don't know. Like, I'll dive a skyscraper, but I'm not gonna freaking dive the helipad at a police station, right? There's one of these things is way riskier than the other. I just don't get it. Anyway. Oh, man. We should try George Costanza's. Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? Forrest Lionheart says, doing what you want is better than doing the right thing. I feel like... I'm just going to say this. I don't mean it in a disrespectful or insulting way, but if you have to disclaim it, then it may come off that way. No disrespect intended. I feel like that is an immature perspective. That you decide, like, I feel like it's often the case that people who are younger, like in their teens and their 20s, have an attitude of, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever I want. And then as you get older and just chill out a little bit, you gain some perspective that sometimes you just can decide to do what people tell you should do. And it doesn't really frickin' matter. And you get what you want anyway. And life is easier. And it doesn't mean that you can't stand up for yourself when it really matters. But if you say doing what you want's better than doing the right thing, well, you know, sometimes I go on a mountain road and I zip up and down the mountain going faster than the speed limit, and I hope I don't get caught. And, you know, sometimes I just drive the speed limit because I'm not interested in getting a speeding ticket today. It's all about risk versus reward. So, Robert Knox says directions of the motors are consistent with the drawing. Damn it. That sucks. Okay. The next thing that could cause the quad to fly straight up in the air is if the flight controller gyro is going crazy, either because you changed the PIDs or filters, or because, like, were the motors super hot? That's my question. Were the motors super hot when it landed? That's my next question. I guess what I would say is you know, the principle of do what you will, the principle of individual determinism, in a way, even an anarchist principle, that people must decide for themselves what they will do. It is a superset of the principle that sometimes you decide to do, sometimes you decide to obey the law. If you think you're a rebel or an anarchist and the only thing you ever do is the opposite of what people tell you to do, you're not actually very much of a free thinker. You're just reactionary. You see what I mean? You're triggered. You're like a guy who, if somebody goes, huh, and he flinches or he swings back, he has no control over his reaction. I saw an interview with The Rock. What is the saying? The interviewer, there's a saying from way back when The Rock first started wrestling. It's like, I don't remember what it was. But basically you pose a question and then you interrupt the answer and you shout The Rock's catchphrase at him. I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry. The chat will tell me. And the guy sets it up. The Rock starts to answer and the guy shouts in The Rock's face. And The Rock's like, oh, you got me. The guy's like, did I get you? Maybe you jumped, and Rock's like, I didn't jump. You're asking too much. And I went back and I replayed it. And sure enough, this guy just out of the blue shouts in The Rock's face. The Rock does not flinch. He does not jump. He doesn't draw back a fist. He is cool as a cucumber. And that is a person who is in control of their reaction to external stimulus. And don't think that The Rock couldn't tie you into a pretzel if he wanted to. He's not a weak person. But he chooses when he'll use his. Yeah. Anyway. What's the saying? No, it's not, can you smell what The Rock's cooking? I know that one. It's like, nobody cares. I know it's, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Not that one. Well, it doesn't matter what you think. That's the one. That's the one. That's the one. So the setup is you ask him a question, and then as he goes to answer, you go, it doesn't matter what you think. And the reporter had the guts to do that to him, to his face. That's the one. I had to look it up. That's it. Jackalope FPV. It doesn't matter what you think. He didn't flinch. So, choose to obey the law. Choose to break the law. It's up to you. But make it a choice. Oh, goddamn. That's very, I'm so sorry. I apologize. That's some people find that to be a very, very strong slur. Whoa! That's very interesting. This is just whipped up during this live stream, by the way, for the record. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. Wow. That's interesting. Now the real test. How can I zoom it out even further? Can I make it smaller? How small can I make it? That's as small as I can make it. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Vanover if you don't relate to Vanover. I mean, it could be Vanover. That's interesting. I mean, this is just a whip up, but you guys, Vanover's a racer, not flow. Put Drew instead. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of pilot is on. It's just supposed to grab people's eye. You guys are going to see it no matter what the poster looks like. The poster is not for you. I mean, it's a little bit for you. But Bot Grinder's here. Hey, Bot Grinder. How you doing, man? We'll put Bot Grinder on the poster. That'll be eye-catching. I like this guy. This is an interesting composition. It's nice to see a different take. It's very interesting. I like the big... Oh, that's a little too big. I like the big face. That face is going to be noticeable even when it's small and zoomed out. That's interesting. That's... We're going to have to think about that. Miguel T, thank you for a $20 super chat. I'm trying to flash my ESC for bidirectional. Beta FPV 1 to 2S AO getting your ESCs have been locked by the manufacturer. You cannot... I'm sorry, Miguel. What has happened... So first of all, I don't think Beta FPV did this on purpose, but I have heard of ESCs going out and somehow they get flashed with this locking and you can't flash them. The only way to unlock them is by doing a C2 flash, which means you get an Arduino, you solder it up to the C2 interface on the board, assuming they broke out the C2 interface, which they probably did, and then you flash it using Arduino. Most people are not going to want to go through that. Miguel, I have a video about how to do a C2 flash. It's very old, but I'll C2 flash Joshua Bardwell. So this is the video that you want, Miguel. Oh, that was a long time ago, boys. Miguel T, if you decide to do a C2 flash, this is how to do it. But boy, it's first you have to have an Arduino. Do you have one? And then you gotta find the C2 pads on the flight controller and hope that you got it right. You gotta solder them up, which is Jiminy Christmas. It's tricky, and then you flash it. Well, remember this guy? No, you don't remember this guy. It's just a concept, dude. Of course the battery's not plugged in on the movie poster. It's just a concept. Just to give you a sense of the composition. It doesn't mean anything. Andy Clark, thank you for a $5 super chat. Could you try to explain a bit about why we have to worry about VTX interference between pilots, but not with control links? Is it the modulation? Andy Clark, yes. So VTXs use analog modulation. I guess that's fair to say. And what that means is basically it transmits on a given frequency band, and the frequency bands are close enough together that they overlap. So if two channels are close enough together, then they'll interfere with each other. That's the gist of it. With the control link, it's using spread spectrum. It's using a type of spread spectrum called frequency hopping. And what that means is that the signal itself is very, very narrow band, and it hops randomly all over the frequency. so that as you have more pilots in the air, they all hop around, and occasionally two of them will hop to the same frequency and interfere, but then they'll really quickly hop away. If you have enough pilots active at the same time, you will start to get micro failsafes, because they'll hop and they'll interfere, and they'll hop and they'll interfere with somebody else, and just randomly they'll get shot down enough times in a row that it'll be a micro failsafe. But because of the frequency hopping modulation, you can have lots of pilots in the air at the same time. The other thing to keep in mind is that your control signal, like the video signal is it 26 megahertz? Is that the number? The video signal is relatively wide because a video signal contains a lot of data, a lot of information, whereas the control signal is very, very narrow and small because it doesn't contain very much information. And so you can just fit more control signals in at a time without interference. Ho Operator, thanks for another $5. And you're right. That quote is attributable to Aleister Crowley. The quote that Ho Operator is quoting is "Do what you will shall be the whole of the law." It's a doctrine from Aleister Crowley, and a common interpretation of it is that it means you can do whatever you want without repercussion, but it doesn't say that. It doesn't mean that your actions have no repercussions. At least that's my thought about it. It means that you can do whatever you want, but you have to also accept the consequences. Well, unless I guess you can get away with it. Let's see here. I am Rudy. People in the Discord are talking about the driving factor behind the desire to regulate the airspace. My personal take on it is that there are several things going on. One of them is legitimate concern over the safety of the national airspace. There are people who are concerned about drones crashing into planes. They're concerned because they want to completely control the airspace, and they see anything operating in the airspace that's not under their control as a safety risk and a threat. And whether that's valid or not, I mean, once you have control over something, you tend to want to keep it. There's nothing for them to lose. If the FAA were to go, it's cool, these drones are no big deal, you guys do what you want, just be cool, you guys, and then somehow a drone brings down a helicopter, the FAA is just going to be absolutely crucified. So there's no downside for them to over-regulate. Doesn't matter. Who's it going to piss off? Us? But there is an enormous potential, imagined, maybe true downside for under-regulating. So their tendency is to over-regulate. They're concerned about safety, security, and law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security. Those type of people are concerned about the potential use of drones as weapons. And if you don't think that that is a valid concern, then you're not paying attention and you're not thinking. Congratulations, you're not a terrible terrorist or a criminal. Because trust me, the quote-unquote bad guys are already doing it. And not domestically, not yet. But that's a concern. And then people talk about, the Amazons and the UPSs of the world, the Googles, they want to make money. And I think that there's definitely, it would be stupid to say that there wasn't truth to that, but I actually don't think that the FAA is as in the pocket of big business as people imagine that they are. And I could be wrong. I don't have a special insight. I think that it's more normal government bureaucracy and justification of your existence that now the FAA, the FAA needs to justify its existence Well, I mean, airplanes justify its existence, but they can't just go, drones are cool. We don't need to regulate that. Like drones? Drones are in the airspace? Oh, we got to regulate this. Oh, yeah, no, this needs a lot of regulation. Right, guys? Yeah. That's how it feels to me. So it's all in there. I think it's all in there. I don't think it's just Jeffrey Bezos. You did it. You regulated drones. I don't think it's just that. I think it's less that than people guess. And way more of the other two than people guess. That's my take. Aerobrat says a comparison could be made with gun control. Nefarious actors aren't going to follow the rules. Aerobrat, I don't buy that. I don't buy that argument at all. I know the basis of that argument, but let me ask you this. Let's take speeding. If Congress were to pass a law, I'm not saying they will, but let's imagine. If Congress were to pass a law that all automobiles must have a speed limiter that restricts them from going over 55 miles an hour, it would cut down on speeding. It would. A lot. And you could say, well, the kind of person who's going to speed isn't going to follow that rule anyway. Well, good luck. Well, good luck finding a car. I'm going to buy old cars and I'm going to speed. Okay. But it would definitely cut down on speeding. There are always ways to circumvent the law, but the majority of people are law-abiding. The majority of people will comply. They're sheep. They're dirty sheep. They're sheeple and they just obey the law. Well, they eat their grass and chew their cud. Oh, those horrible. Okay, sorry. The majority of people obey the law. So you pass a law, it makes a difference. Well, it won't stop the bad actors, but that assumes that there is a binary dichotomy between bad actors who are intent on breaking the law no matter what, and good people who would never have broken the law anyway. And that's BS. A whole lot of people do dumb shit just because they're dumb or uninformed or screwed up that day. Remember the guy who lost control of his DJI drone and it flew onto freaking Las Vegas airport airspace and landed on the airport? That guy was not a bad actor who set out to break the law. He was just some dumb guy who made a mistake. So to say bad actors will break the law, therefore the law has no purpose, I don't think that's true at all. Not every law is effective, but I just think that's a flawed argument. And that argument's true with guns. And it's we can't say that word because now we'll get demonetized. So we won't say that word. I don't know if that's true. There are people out there who will commit a crime with that weapon. And if you make them illegal, they'll just get them illegally and continue committing crimes. But a whole lot of the things that are done wrong with those things are not intentional. And the people who do them intend to be law-abiding. And so laws will... The point is not to argue for or against any particular law, which would be very controversial and then I'd get canceled or something. But the point is to say, when you pass a law, law-abiding people follow the law. People who just don't care and are just going with the flow follow the law. And just because there are some bad actors who will break the law and can break the law doesn't mean the law has no purpose. That's what I say. Let's see here. Lord Henrik says the FAA most likely wants to compare the domestic terrorist list with the new FAA trust test. Again, Lord Henrik, the trust test is not administered by the FAA. It is administered by independent third parties like the Chippewa Community College is where I took mine, the Boy Scouts of America, the AMA. It is administered not by the FAA. They do not... some of them ask you to make a login, but some of them don't. So there is no reason for you to log in order to take the test. And they do not give that information back to the FAA. No one knows that you took the trust test. You could take the test and you could put in Bob Smith as your name on your certificate. No one's following up on this in any meaningful way. And the read that I get on it is that they just want you to take the damn test so that you can learn the damn information. And somewhere they were in a meeting and they were like, listen, maybe we could have them all register and take the test on the FAA website. And somebody else was like, look, you know they're not going to do it. They're not going to register on the FAA website because they think we're going to implant a 5G tracking chip in them through their computer mouse. Okay, look, what if we let the frickin' Boy Scouts of America administer the test? And we're not going to store their names. We just want them to take the stupid test. Okay, that's what they did. Yep. Dobo2 has been asking this throughout the live stream. I appreciate you not spamming too much, but continuing to ask, Dobo2. I don't know the answer. Can anyone suggest a cheap Android tablet that will allow Dobo2 to use the DigiView app? What is a good, cheap Android tablet that he can use the DigiView app? Somebody out there who has a good recommendation, make a recommendation. Scott Steely, thank you for a $10 super chat. I know filters make the motors get hot, but what is the motor doing to get hot? Is the ESC putting too much electricity in the motor and it can't handle it? What happens to the motor? Here's the analogy that I like to use for why motors get hot when, like, there's not enough filtering. Imagine that you have a wheel. And you're going to spin the wheel, and it's like going to turn a crank, and maybe it's going to grind some grain or do some work, okay? So you got this big wheel in front of you, and you got the wheel and you're spinning it, okay? All right. Now, imagine that instead of spinning it, you take the wheel and you're going to go like this. You're going to make it go back and forth, okay? Now, imagine that the wheel, it doesn't want to move, okay? So that as you take the wheel and you go, oh, your hands are rubbing on the wheel. And there's friction, right? And your hands get hot. Okay, the analogy is that when you try to move something and it doesn't move, you waste energy. When I grab that wheel and I spin the wheel, I'm just moving. I'm converting mechanical energy from one place to the other. But when I grab the wheel and I try to move the wheel and it doesn't move, I'm turning that mechanical energy into heat through friction. So with a motor, when you push current through the coil of the motor, it builds a magnetic field, and that causes the motor to begin to spin. When that electrical energy does not turn into mechanical energy, a rotation of the motor, it turns into heat. So for example, if you were to grab a motor and stop it so it couldn't spin and then push current through it, it would just get hot. All of that energy would be turned into heat. So what's happening is that when you turn the filters off, high frequency noise gets transmitted from the flight controller through the PID controller to the ESC, and it tries to make the motor speed up and slow down very fast, faster than the motor can speed up and slow down. And then that electrical current going in and out, faster than the motor can actually move, builds up heat. Robert Knox says, it all seems to be good now. I had one more instance of the quad shooting up when landing, but I've now had 4 successful hover and landing in a row without issue. Robert, do not trust that quadcopter, my friend. Respectfully, if you tap the ground and it tries to fly to the moon, the flight controller has a problem. And if it doesn't do it 5 times in a row, it might do it on the 6th or the 7th or the 10th or the 20th. You got to sort this out. You got to figure this out. What did you change to fix it? If it just randomly stopped doing it, it's not fixed and it's a problem. A-Power and Super Hans in the Discord are talking about the effect of the trust test on law enforcement. One thing you guys may be overlooking is that the FAA is actively seeking to educate local law enforcement. The FAA has programs, law enforcement outreach programs, where the FAA tells local law enforcement, hey guys, you guys worried about drones? Yeah, let us come into our Zoom meeting and let's do a 2-hour webinar about the drone laws and how you can enforce them for us, because we don't have enough people to enforce them. So the idea that local cops don't know about drones is true now, but the FAA is actively working to change that because they don't have the resources to enforce the laws. Motoref FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. I can't get OSD on my DJI Goggles V2. Just sent some details to your email. Alrighty, Motoref, what do we got here? We got a Goku F7 mini flight controller. Air unit is wired to the 9-volt regulator. And UART 5 white and gray to TX and RX. Also tried to wire them the opposite way. Well, one of those is right and one is wrong. It's an air unit. Good old Oscar Liang is going to come to the rescue, isn't he? I did this earlier today, actually, for a video I was working on. Help me, Oscar. Save me, Oscar. You're my only hope. Where's the... Dang. There we go. So, white wire goes to TX, gray wire goes to RX. Is that what he says? White to TX, gray to RX. Okay, so that's correct. Crossfire Nano doesn't matter. Okay, so Mike, here's what I would ask Motoref. Do you have VBAT in the lower right corner of your screen? Not the goggle battery. Down in the lower right corner, slightly inward from where you have goggle battery, there's either going to be NA or a voltage, which is VBAT. If you have that, then your TXRX connection is working. If you don't have that, then your TXRX connection is not working, and that's why you don't have OSD. The other thing you didn't mention, and thank you, Metal Dirt Skin, for mentioning this. Hopefully I would have got there eventually, but thank you, Metal Dirt Skin. The other thing you didn't mention was in your ports tab, you didn't mention whether you had enabled MSP. So for whichever UART you have the air unit on, you have to enable MSP, and that would also cause this. I'm going to hope that that's the issue. Creator's Cup, thanks for a $5 super chat. Is there any disadvantage to adjusting PIDS race in the goggles versus Betaflight, or even using both? No. It's exactly the same. It's just whichever you find most convenient. Mike, let me just... I'm going to send him an email real quick just in case he doesn't see it, that. 1 second. Rotor Maniac says, after I arm my quads and give the initial throttle input, the throttle goes to full. Why is this happening? Congratulations, Throttle Maniac. You are today's winner of the Why Do My Motors Spool Up question. Everyone asks that question eventually in the hobby. Here is the answer, Rotor Maniac. I think this is your answer. So link to the video. MotorRef has NA in the goggles. That's great. I think MSP. I think you didn't enable MSP. Mikey FPV, DJI can work on soft serial. On some flight controllers, it doesn't work reliably, but it does work in general. When I throttle up Betaflight, all 4 motors aren't even. Is that normal because of the auto level correction? Yes, that's exactly right. Robert Davis, thank you for a $5 super chat. These smart ESCs from fixed wings that have reverse thrust, do you think you could have no benefit for our quads, right? Or is that how people build 3D? You got it, Robert Davis. That is how you build a 3D quad. That's exactly right. Reversible ESC. Hey, Bubby's here. Bubby just showed up. Good to see you, Bubby. Do you use a Bowden or direct drive extruder for your 3D printer? Asks Aircon. Aircon, I have a direct drive on my Sovol, and until recently I had a Bowden on my Ender, but I recently converted the Ender over to a Hemera extruder. I'm actually having some problems getting the Hemera to print right. I'm sure it's user error, but I am kind of a little, I mean, like, I know the Hemera is going to be good when I finally figure out what I've done wrong, but I'm disappointed right now. My Sovol is still my winning printer. In fact, just today, hey, thanks. Guess what happens when you spend $150 on a Hemera hot end? You can email support at E3D and actually get an answer and have them help you troubleshoot your printer. So try that. Yeah, but you can see right here, I've fully completed Teaching Tech's calibration guide. It seems like everything is right, and it's printing like crap. Here's a retraction tower I did. And again, like, why are there's these little blobs here? Something ain't right. Something ain't right at all. Something ain't right. And I thought originally it was linear advance, but I turned linear advance off and it didn't make a difference. I've tried various things, and I've finally just emailed Hemera support to say, what the F's going on, guys? Please make my printer work right. So, yeah. I don't know what's gone wrong. Suffice it to say, I've done all of the obvious things, except the one that I haven't done. Like I said, I've fully been through Teaching Tech's calibration guide. So people in the chat who are saying, calibrate your E-steps, done. Calibrate your flow rate, done. Calibrate your, do a temperature tower, done. Do a retraction tower, done. Yada, yada, yada. No, that's a 2-hour benchy. No, it's effed up. It's just effed up. Something ain't right. So I'm going to be real disappointed if, no, I stopped the print. I stopped the print early when I FPV when I saw how bad it was going. But, yeah. I like, the Hemera has to be, it has to just be something's wrong. The Hemera is such a good extruder. It has to be better than that. So, yeah. Dry my filament. Tried it, Mike Bergman. Dried the filament. The thing is, if I put that exact same filament on my Sovol, it prints fine. Nozzle spacing. My first layer is great, except for a little bit of stringing, but the first layer is great. Like, that's not a first layer problem there. PLA prints better. PLA prints better. TPU prints worse. But obviously the Hemera's whole point is to print TPU well, print flex filament. Cue all the people saying, well, if you just bought a Prusa, this wouldn't be a problem. Shut up. The time, I mean, let me tell you, this has been a valuable learning experience about how to, I've learned to compile Marlin. I've learned to, all this calibration and setup steps. This is a valuable learning experience. But in strictly terms of time spent, I definitely could have just bought a Prusa and come out ahead in terms of the value, you know, the cash value of my time. New nozzle. I mean, I mean, I hate it when people do this. It's a brand new nozzle. Could it be the nozzle? I don't know about that. Like I said, it's a Chimera, so it's direct drive. I have run the PID auto tune, so. Brad Haugen, thank you for a $5 super chat. Brian Levine says, for my earlier $20... Brian, are you the guy who's been arguing with me over on TikTok? Is that you? God dang it, Brian. I'm just going to double check. There's someone who's been arguing with me on TikTok about the FAA. Is that you? I think it is. It's Brian Levine. Okay. Brian Levine is of the opinion. Well, Brian, you can speak for yourself. I'll let you speak for yourself. Brian has. I said that the FAA has the exclusive right to regulate the airspace, which in fact is just a fact. It's just a fact. And Brian, I said that as a result of that, and then Brian replied by saying that you had to get property owners' permission before crossing their property line, which is just not true. Brian went on to elaborate that what he actually meant was that there were things you could do if a drone was flying too close to your property. Things like get a restraining order, things like harassment, nuisance laws. And I agreed with Brian that that is all a thing that can happen. But I still say that you do not categorically need to get a business owner's permission. There's a difference between saying, if you are an asshole, then someone could have recourse against you, and saying, like, let me put it this way. Is it illegal for me to carry a baseball bat in public? No. It's not. I don't need to get anybody's permission to carry a baseball bat. If I am swinging the baseball bat at people, now I'm in trouble. And that, I feel like, is the kind of distinction that I'm trying to make, Brian, because what you said was you need permission from the building owner before you cross their property line. That is not true. That's like saying you need permission to carry a baseball bat on the street. That's not true. I feel like you backed away by saying, well, if you're, yeah. And so what Brian asks regarding his $20 super chat is it okay if me and 20 of my friends come fly around your house at 4 a.m. without your permission? Well, Brian, if you were flying in the national airspace in and around my house, you would have the right to do that per the FAA. If you create a nuisance that prevents me from sleeping, if you interfere with my use and enjoyment of my property, then I might be able to take legal action against you. And I've never said that that's not true. But in general, you do not need to get my permission to fly through the national airspace above my property. And there is no perimeter around my house where when you cross that perimeter, suddenly you need my permission. So, that's my take on it. Right. the problem is that in my opinion, the problem is that Mike Bergman opened with, you must get the building owner's permission before you fly near their building, which is a very, very black and white statement, and is not true. And then he backed away to a more nuanced position of, well, you know, if you fly near the building, they might get you in trouble. Well, sure, that's true. That's different from saying you can't dive a building without the building owner's permission. Anyway. Yeah, Mike, I have the TikToks right here, Mike. Do we need to look them up? We don't need to do that, do we? We don't need to do that. Okay. I think that building dives can't possibly be legal. But if you're flying under Part 107, you know, commercial flights. Yeah. But then you kind of still need the permission of the property owner, and that's very rarely obtained. And I said, no, you don't. And he said, yeah, they do. They own the airspace next to their building. They own the usable airspace above their property. Sure, but that doesn't mean that you can't fly through it. And even if you had your Part 107, you still couldn't fly in the air 25 feet above my house unless I gave you permission. I own it. That's not true. You have the right to use it, but you don't have the right to prevent people from flying through it unless their flying through it interferes with your right to use it. But the default position is that they have the right to fly through it, not that they need to get your permission to fly through it. By the way, Brian, I do see that you said, I did make one mistake in our conversation. You said that you learned this info during law school and while studying for the bar, and I took that to mean that you were currently studying for the bar, but I see now that you didn't say that. You were referring, because later you say that you were practicing. And you were saying that when you were studying for the bar, you learned this stuff. But you said you've been practicing for 10 years. So according to you, the things you learned 10 years ago, drones aren't barely 10 years old. But I do see that you didn't say that you were currently studying for the bar. I apologize for getting that wrong. Anyway. So I'm synthesizing your position from several, we're having 150 character conversation on TikTok, but Mike's position is that the building owner has private property rights to the airspace around them and can prevent the flight of aircraft through the building, and I don't think that's how the FAA sees it. Mike, I'm sorry, Mike Bergman. Brian Levine. Mike, I'm so sorry, Mike. Brian Levine. Mike, I just switched to your name, and I don't know why. Apologize, Mike. Brian Levine is the one. My bad. That's slander right there. That's defamation. Now I'm going to get sued. This is the kind of thing that absolutely will get sorted out in courts. Like, I think the FAA's position is absolutely an overreach. I do. The FAA saying we own the airspace down to the blades of grass. That's BS. The idea that if I'm flying in my backyard below the tree line, the FAA has anything to do with it, because that's not navigable airspace. My backyard is not navigable airspace in any meaningful way. And if you were to say we're going to make some kind of a aerial trespassing statute, which, by the way, would have to be passed by the FAA, because only the federal government can do that. But if you were to, if I could imagine a world where a reasonable law exists that defines aerial trespass. I could imagine that, but that doesn't exist today. Sorry, Mike. I apologize. On the one hand, Mike, when I had to pull a random name out of my brain, it was yours. So I guess you're at the top of my mind. Anyway. Maverick points out US v. Cosby. US v. Cosby generally doesn't mean what many people think it means. It's US v. Cosby, as I understand it, did two things. One is it it got rid of the principle that you control the airspace up to the heavens, and said, look, airplanes can fly over your house and you can't stop them. And the other thing it did was it said, but you have the right to use the airspace above your property up to a certain height. So the distinction there is that if you are using the airspace, then the government can't say, hey, you have to take that down, where you need to fly through here. It's your airspace and you can use it. But the flip side of that is if you are not using it, they can fly through it. And then there's this argument over, well, are they depriving you of the use of your property, which is a very gray thing. And I don't think you can argue that one drone diving a building is in any meaningful sense depriving that. But that would be something the building owner would have to sue you over. Anyway, that's it, though. We've come to 10 o'clock. Thank you, Tony Parsons, for $1. Thank you, MotorRef FPV, for $5. MotorRef does have MSP active. Damn it. I was sure that was it. Creators Cup, thank you for $5. Tony Parsons, thank you for $5. Creators Cup asks, is it legal to tape a baseball bat to a drone? Haha. Tony Parsons says, without you, my FPV learning curve would have been too steep to climb. So thank you and keep up the good work. Brad Haugen, thank you for $5. Yeah. And Gregory Hurst, thank you for $5. Keep doing what you're doing. You're a pro. And Mike Bergman, next time you want to argue with me on TikTok, no, sorry, Mike. Apologize for that. That's going to do it for me, everybody. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming, and you can ask him what he thinks of USV Cosby. Aaron, have you started posting links yet? Or have you been just letting me go off? Post that link, Aaron. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming tonight. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the news at 6 p.m. Reminder, there will be no live streams until after the 31st. Because I'm going to be on a trip, so enjoy it while you got it. Mike Bergman is safe for one more week. I'll say one more thing. Look, I disagree. Sorry, Ciati, one more thing. I disagree, Brian. Brian, I disagree with your position, but fundamentally, I respect the way you've handled yourself in the argument, and I don't think you're completely off base in many of the things you're saying. I just think you're starting from the wrong premise. I think, anyway, but no hard feelings. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Happy flying, everybody. Have a great stream, Ciati.